Hello friends, welcome you all for the today's discussion. Today we are going to see one of the most important chapter of Indian polity, that is Preamble of the Constitution. Here I have listed you few important facts related to Preamble. The American Constitution was the first to begin with the Preamble. After that, many countries including India followed this practicing, that is adapting the preamble into the constitution. The term preamble refers to the introduction or preface to the constitution, and also this preamble contains summary or essence of the constitution. The foremost jurist and a constitutional expert N.A. Palkiwala called this preamble as the identity code of the constitution, and also K.M. Munshi, that is, he is a drafting committee member, called this preamble as horoscope of our sovereign democratic republic. And we move on the discussion. Here, this preamble is based on with objective resolution moved and drafted by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, which was adopted by the Constituent Assembly. Let us see few important facts related to objective resolution in terms of Pilm's perspective. The first point, India is an independent sovereign republic. If you take fifth point, all the people of India shall be guaranteed and secured socio-economic and political justice, equality of status, of opportunities. So these are the important things I want us to know. And seventh point, that is the territorial integrity of the republic and its sovereign rights on land. So kindly go through this objective resolution briefly. Each and every word present in the objective resolution is very important related to the prelims perspective. I am skipping this due to the time constraint. I have provided here. Kindly go through. And during objective resolution, these three words are missing in the objective resolution. So after 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976, these three words are added in our preamble. What are they? Socialist, secular, and integrity. These three words were added in the preamble of the Indian Constitution. After this, the text of the preamble becomes, we the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a, the sequence is very important, sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. If you take any public service commission, the sequence is order is very important. And to secure all its citizens, that is justice. Justice in the sense socio-economic and political justice, liberty of thought, expression, belief, and faith. These are the things we are adapted from the objective resolution. Equality, fraternity, assuring the dignity of individual and unity and integrity of the nation. Here, this text of the preamble has the ingredients. What are they? This tells about the source of authority of the constitution. If you see here, we the people of India, that is, the source of authority of the constitution derives its authority from the people of India. If you see the sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, it shows the nature of the Indian constitution, that is, nature of Indian state. It declares India to be a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, and republican polity. And also, here in our preamble, it shows the objectives also, that is, justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. Here, it specifies the objectives of the constitution also. And also, the preamble shows the constitution assembly, that is 26th November 1949, which means it also shows the date of the adoption of the constitution. So these are the main ingredients of the preamble one has to remember for your prelims perspective. And we move on with the key words present in the text of the preamble, that is sovereign, socialist, secular. Let us see briefly about those words. So these are the important keywords. One has to remember. If you take previous year prelims question paper, you will find a questions and related to these keywords. Let us begin. Sovereign. What do you mean by sovereign? The sovereign implies that India is neither a dependency nor a dominion of any other nation, which means India is an independent state. What do you mean by independent state? That is, there is no authority above it. It is free to conduct its own affairs. Own affairs in the state, both internal and external affairs. So, being a sovereign state, India can either acquire a foreign territory or sell a part of its territory in favor of foreign state. Although in 1949, India declared the continuation of our full membership of the Commonwealth of Nations and accepted the British Crown as the head of the Commonwealth. This extra constitutional declaration does not affect the Indian sovereignty in any manner. Further, India's membership of the United Nations organization also in no way constitute a limitation on our sovereignty. So these are the important facts related to sovereignty. And let us move on with the socialist. Here, one has to note that Indian brand of socialism is a democratic socialism, not a communistic socialism. What do you mean by communistic socialism? This communistic socialism is also known as state socialism. What do you mean by that? Which means it involves a nationalization of all means of production distribution which abolishes private property. That is called as communistic socialism. Whereas if you take a democratic socialism, it holds in a faith of mixed economy. What do you mean by mixed economy? Where both public and private sector coexist side by side. That is called a democratic socialism. We India was a democratic socialism. That is, we adopted a mixed economy. And even before that, one has to know that the socialist word was adopted by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act in 1976, which means the constitution has a socialist content in the form of certain directive principles of state policy, though which was implicit in the constitution now has been made explicit. And also one has to note that the Congress party itself adopted a resolution and established a socialist pattern of society in its early session as early as in 1955 and also took measures according to that. And also one has to note that the Supreme Court observes democratic socialism aims to end a poverty, ignorance, disease and inequality of opportunities. Here, Indian socialism is the blend of Marxism and Gandhism, but our Indian constitution heavily towards the Gandhian socialism. So if you take a new economic policy during 1991, that is famously called as LPG, liberalization, privatization, globalization, has however diluted the socialist credentials of the Indian state. These are the important facts related to socialist. Let us move on with secular. Secular is very important. The Indian constitution embodies the positive concept of secularism. What do you mean by that? All religion in our country, irrespective of their strength, have the same status and support from the state. The term secular also added by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976. Here one has to note that the Supreme Court observed in 1974 the secular state were not expressly mentioned in the Constitution, but there can be no doubt that the Constitution makers wanted to establish such a secular state, according to which Article 25 to 28, that is guaranteeing the fundamental rights to freedom of religion, have been included in the Constitution. These are the facts one has to remember related to secularism, that is secular. Let us move on with the democratic. So the Indian Constitution ra- provides for representative parliamentary democracy. Before seeing that, let us see the democratic. The democratic polity, as stipulated in the preamble, is based on the famous doctrine called as doctrine of popular sovereignty, which means the possession of supreme power by the people. This democracy has two types, that is direct democracy, indirect democracy. In direct democracy, the people exercise the supreme power directly. If you take example as a Switzerland, there is the direct democracy. And also one has to note that this direct democracy has four devices, namely a referendum, a initiative, a recall, and a plebiscite. This is the most important related to direct democracy. If you take indirect democracy, the representatives elected by the people exercise the supreme power and thus carrying on the government and make the laws. So this type of democracy also known as representative democracy. This representative democracy are in two kinds. What are they? Parliamentary and presidential. Our Indian constitution, let us see about our Indian constitution. Our Indian constitution provides for representative, that is parliamentary democracy, under which the executive is responsible to the legislature for all its policies and actions. And also one has to note that the term democratic is used in the preamble in the broader sense, embracing not only political democracy but also social and economic democracy. So, by which let us see some few examples of democracy adapted in the Indian Constitution, that is universal adult franchisee, periodic elections, rule of law, independence of judiciary, and absence of discrimination on certain grounds. These are the democratic characters of the Indian polity. The famous, that is our Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, in his concluding speech in the Constitution Assembly on November 25th, 1949, says the political democracy cannot last unless it lies at the base of its social democracy. What does social democracy means? It means the way of life which recognizes liberty, equality, and fraternity. The principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity are not to be treated as separate items in the Trinity. They forms a union of Trinity in the sense, and which means the liberty cannot be divorced from equality. The equality cannot be divorced from liberty, nor can liberty and equality divorce from fraternity. And also one has to note, this is important related to your police perspective. Without equality, liberty would produce the supremacy of the few over the many, which means without liberty, there is a produce of supremacy of the few only over the many. And one has to note, the equality without liberty would kill individual initiatives. And also our Supreme Court observed that the Constitution envisions to establish an egalitarian, this word is important, kindly go through, egalitarian social order, which renders every citizen social, economic, and political justice in a social economic democracy of the Bharat Republic. So these are the these are the important things related to democracy. And let us move on with the republic. The democratic polity can be classified into two categories. What are they? Monarchy and republic. In a monarchy, the head of the states, usually a king or queen, enjoys hereditary position. For example, Britain. That is, he comes into office through succession. So therefore, that is for example Britain. If you take Britain, in a republic, the head of the state is always elected directly or indirectly for a fixed period. You take an example, that is USA. And also the term republic in our preamble indicates that India has an elected head called as president. He is elected indirectly for a fixed period of 5 years. And this republic also means two more important things. What are they? The vesting of political sovereignty in the hands of people, not in a single individual like a king or queen. And the second thing, the absence of any privileged classes, which means all the offices being open to every citizen without any discrimination. So, these are the important things one has to remember for Pilgrim's perspective. Let us move on with the justice. The term justice in the preamble embraces three distinct forms, that is, social, economic, and political. These things secured through various provisions of fundamental rights and directive principles. Here, the socialist justice denotes equal treatment of all citizens without any social distinction based on caste, color, race, religion, sex, and so on, which means absence of privileges being extended to any particular section of the society, and improvement in the conditions of backward classes and women's, the backward classes including SC, ST, and OBCs. And also, let us see about economic justice. It denotes the non-discrimination between people of basic factors, that is, economic factors. It involves the elimination of glaring inequalities in wealth, income, and property. The combination of social justice and economic justice denotes called as distributive justice. If you take political justice, it implies that all the citizens should have equal political rights, equal access to political offices, and equal voice in the government. This justice, that is the word social, economic, political, has been taken from the Russian constitution, that is famously called as Russian Revolution 1917. One has to remember this point related to justice. Let us move on with liberty. This liberty is important since if you take a previous year question paper, you may find a question which was asked in the previous years. That is, which of the following is correct related to liberty? The answer for the question is absence of restraint. While go through the previous year question paper, we would analyze. So let us see about liberty. The term liberty means the absence of restraints on the activities of individuals, and at the same time providing opportunities for the development of individual personalities. The preamble secures to all the citizens of India, that is, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, worship through their fundamental rights, which means it enforceable in court of law in case of any violations. Also, the liberty elaborated in the preamble is very essential for the successful functioning of the Indian democratic system. However, one has to note that the liberty does not mean license to do what one likes and has to be enjoyed with the limitations mentioned in the constitution itself, which means the liberty conceived by the preamble of the fundamental rights, it's not absolute right but qualified rights. The words present in the liberty, that is the ideal of liberty, equality, fraternity, in our preamble have been taken from the French constitution, that is based on the French Revolution. And these are the points one has to note related to liberty. Let us move on with equality. The term equality means absence of special privileges to any section of the society, which means the provision of adequate opportunities for all the individuals without any discrimination. The preamble secures to all citizens of India equality of status and opportunity. These provisions embraces three dimensions, which is civic, political, and economic. If you take a fundamental rights, it ensures civic equality by means of Article 14, which is equality before law. Article 15, prohibition of discrimination of grounds of religion, caste, race, sex, or place of birth. If you take Article 16, equality of opportunity in matter of public employment. What about Article 17, abolition of untouchability? Article 18, abolition of titles. These are the civic rights for a citizens provided in our constitution. And also, if you take a political equality, that is also provided in our constitution. If you see Article 325, No person is to be declared ineligible for inclusion in the electoral rolls on the grounds of religion, race, caste, or sex. If you take Article 326, that is, election of the Lok Sabha and State Assembly to be on the basis of adult suffrage. So these are the political rights. What about Article 3? Article 39, that is, Directive Principles of State Policy. It talks about economic equality. How? Let us see. It secures to men and women equal rights to an adequate means of livelihood and equal pay for equal work. So the equality ensures civic, political, and economic. So these are the points one has to remember when you are go through the preamble. Let us move on with fraternity. You can expect the question from fraternity this year. So how? Let us see. The fraternity means the sense of brotherhood. The constitution promotes the feeling of fraternity by the system of single citizenship. And also the fundamental duties. If you see fundamental duties, the article 51A says that it shall be the duty of every citizen of India to promote harmony and spirit of common brotherhood among all the people of India. And also the preamble declares that the fraternity has two things, that is, dignity of the individual and unity and integrity of the nation. Here one has to remember that the word integrity has been added to the preamble by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976. According to K.M. Munshi, a member of the drafting committee of the Constituent Assembly, the phrase dignity of the individual signifies that Constitution not only ensures the material benefit and maintains a democratic setup, but it also recognizes the personality of every individual is secured, which means it highlighted through the some of the provisions of fundamental rights and directive principles of state policies. Here the phrase unity and integrity of the nation embraces both psychological and territorial dimensions of national integration. If you go through Article 1 of the Constitution declares India as a union of states, to make it clear that the states have no rights to secede from the union, implying that indestructible nature of the Indian Constitution. This is important. Indestructible nature of the Indian Constitution. And also, it aims to overcoming hindrance to national integration like communalism, regionalism, casteism, linguism, sectionism, and so on. So these are the important points related to fraternity. Let us see what are the controversies about this preamble. If you take Birbari Union case 1960, the Supreme Court specifically opined that the preamble is not the part of the Constitution. But however, in Kesavananda Bharati case 1973 versus State of Kerala, the Supreme Court rejected the earlier opinion. Earlier opinion in the sense, the opinion given in the Birbari Union case, and held that the preamble is the part of the Constitution. And if you take LSE of India case 1995, the Supreme Court again held that the preamble is the integral part of the Constitution. If you take law as a means optional, you have to know the facts and judgments related to this case. That is important. For your prelims perspective, here I have listed you the important point. This is more than enough. Let us move on with a few important note related to preamble. Here, the preamble is neither the source of power to the legislature nor a prohibition upon the powers of legislature, which means it is non-justiciable also. That is, this provision are not enforceable in the court of law. One has to know these things since in last year 2020 the question were asked in the prelims related to preamble, which is given as the preamble is the part of the Constitution, and mentioned that neither source of the power to legislature nor a prohibition upon the of legislature. While go through such question paper, kindly go through these things. So by this we are concluding this discussion Thanks for being with the discussion. We will meet in the next session. Thank you all.